It's a beautiful summer day out here on the lake, and a lot of people like myself will be going to the lakes, rivers, to the pool. Today is the 5-year anniversary of the day that I saved a little girl's life after she had drowned. And I was at the pool with my sons, and they were 8 and 11 years old. And I was tossing my 8-year-old in the pool. He liked to be picked up. Actually, both of them like to be picked up, but my older one had just got out of the pool to use the bathroom. And so I was just throwing my little one, picking him up and throwing him into the water. You know, I was in the water, and then I kind of heave him out of the water and then toss him, about. He loved to do that. And then my son got in the water, and I hear my son say, "Dad!" So I look over, and I hear a lady say, "Somebody help!" So I swam over. I told my little one to get out of the pool. And when I got over to the side of the pool, there was a little girl laying on the side of the pool. Everybody had gotten out of the pool already. And she was purple, and her eyes were rolling back in her head, and she had white stuff coming out of her mouth. And my first initial reaction was, why aren't the lifeguards doing CPR? Because as soon as I got out of the water and I saw the lifeguards hovering over the little girl, I know that there's literally seconds to maybe a minute or two before this little girl is going to be brain dead or dead. So when I got out of the pool, I saw the lifeguards, and the first lifeguard that was hovering over her was shaking. She didn't want to touch the little girl's chest. And so I'm kind of a smart ass. And so as soon as I got out of the water and I saw that she was shaking, I said, "You don't know how to do CPR?" And then I didn't even wait for her answer. And then I just went in and I started doing the compressions on her sternum. And I know that you're supposed to do a certain way for children versus adults, but I didn't bother with that. I just went in and started doing the compressions, like a full compression like you would do on an adult. And I've never saved a life before, but I was trained in the Marines. And I haven't, used the training ever. But when you're in a pool of 100 people and there's children around, you would think that these lifeguards would be trained, and they are trained. But just because you're trained doesn't mean that you know what you're doing, or you're not gonna be afraid, or you're gonna run away. If you're a deer in the headlights, you're no good. So I started doing the compressions, and I started breathing for her. And then I did more compressions, and then I breathed it for her. And when the second time when I breathed it in for her, I looked over and I could see her chest, and her chest was rising, but she wasn't letting the air out of her chest. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, no. Like literally, I know this girl's gonna die on me if she doesn't get some air into her brain, immediately, and isn't able to exhale. So I thought to myself, and everyone's screaming like, "Oh my God!" Everyone's around, the pool, and everyone's trying to give suggestions or whatever. And literally, it's just me and that little girl. I know my sons were there, but they were safe out of the pool. But it was just me and that little girl in that world at that time. And so, as I'm thinking, no, please don't die. I think to myself, let me do one big breath into her. And so I just took a big breath in, and then I blew a big breath into her lungs. And then when I blew that big breath into her lungs, it dislodged whatever was in her throat. And she kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit, and I spit it out, and I kind of turned her on her side. But she wasn't, her eyes hadn't came back into, and she wasn't like crying, and she was still kind of purple. So I knew something was still right. So I did more compressions, and then I took another breath, and I did another big, like a big breath that just blow whatever was in there out. And that second breath dislodged it, and she threw up completely, and I turned her on her side. And then she was sitting there, and everyone's like, "Pick her up, dude." I'm just like, just leave her alone. And she was sitting there. I couldn't tell if she was alive. She had her eyes that came to, but she wasn't crying like, you would expect. and she didn't look like she was breathing. So I kept kind of pushing on her chest, kept kind of trying to push on her chest, not heavily, but just kind of like, just in case she needed like help to breathe. And then all of a sudden she started to cry and go, ah. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Oh my God. She started to cry. She was alive. She started breathing. Oh my God. Everybody was like she started cheering. Everybody was happy. I was still in the pool. I was the only one that was in the pool still. So I got out of the pool, and then everybody asked me, are you the father? And I'm like, no. And then some guy came up to me and he was like, oh my God, thank you. And then they were like, somebody asked him, are you the father? And he was like, yes. And I was like, in my head, I was thinking, where the fuck are you? You? Like, I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I wouldn't leave them at the pool alone by themselves. And this girl, I thought she was like 1, maybe 2, and she turned out to be 3, but she was so small. I mean, I thought she was younger. But after I found out, because the police called me the next day, after I saved her, they brought her into the main lifeguard room, and they wrapped her in blankets and everything. And then when the police came over and interviewed me, they took my number down and they came out. I was done. They took my statement, and I went over and I saw my sons. And of course, my first thing out of my son's mouth was, Dad, you saved her. And I was like, yeah, you saw that? It was pretty amazing. And of course, my little one was looking at me like in awe. He was like, if you look at this picture, he couldn't believe it. But thankfully I was there, and we almost didn't go to the pool that day. So you never know when the techniques, the training that you've been, trained to do might come in handy, and you never know when you'll need it. I was just going to the pool that day with my sons, not thinking anything of it. And then all of a sudden, a little girl needed my help. And I've never seen that girl to this day. After that day, I've never seen her again. Me and my sons, after I saved her, we got pretty much free access to the pool for the rest of that summer. And then the next couple summers that we went, I'd never seen her again. But there's a little girl on this planet now that I've saved, and she's on this planet because of me, so I'm like, blessed, and I'm happy that she made it, and that I was there, because honestly, if I wasn't there, I don't think she would have made it, because the lifeguards were too scared to do their job. So, food for thought, those that are doing lifeguards or are trying to train for CPR, know what you're capable of. Another day on the lake. Have a beautiful day.